everyone, welcome to this updated video. I hope you're doing great this morning. We're going to be talking about what's happening across the North Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific. So there is an area highlighted by the National Hurricane Center. Now, tomorrow on May 15, the Eastern Pacific hurricane season officially commences. And just after the season begins, days after, we could see the first tropical cyclone over in that ocean basin. So we'll be talking about that. We can see lots of severe weather moving through parts of the southeast U.S., the Gulf Coast states. A lot of thunderstorm activity, a lot of lightning strikes are happening in the Gulf of Mexico, the northern Gulf. Looking towards Africa, lots of convection. We're seeing that it is pretty active right there, but there is still some dust around, and some is going to be moving into the Caribbean later this week. So it is clearing up right now. Many areas may have noticed that improvement, as I talked about in a previous video, but another dust plume is on its way for this weekend. Alright, so we're going to be kickstarting things with the Eastern Pacific. This is the outlook from the National Hurricane Center, a special outlook because the outlooks usually don't start until the start of the hurricane season unless there is something to actually watch during the off season. So yesterday on the 13th at 1:29 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, an update was issued. So there hasn't been an update before that since the end of the hurricane season on November 30th, and we're seeing that this area here is highlighted in yellow. So the yellow indicates that it has a low formation chance as of now. The chance is at 30% as we're seeing. So there's a lot of activity going on in this general location, and an area of low pressure is expected to form, after which we may see some development become of it and it could move out. We'll be looking at what models have to show later in the video, but this is what the area is looking like on the satellite imagery right now. We can see that there is definitely some instability over there, atmospheric instability, because there's lots of showers, lots of thunderstorms as well. Even looking towards just offshore Panama, part of it is cut off there, but look at that blob flaring up. So there's a lot of activity going on within this area here. But as we head to the Caribbean, it is quite the contrast. We can see that much isn't happening. Few thunderstorms offshore Haiti and Jamaica, but nothing much is going on a whole. And even throughout today, a whole lot of rainfall is not expected for a majority of the Caribbean islands. As I speak, let's go to it right now. This is what Euro is showing through the rest of today and into the very early morning hours of tomorrow. Not a lot of color around. So for the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, some spots in Cuba, the Cayman Islands, maybe somewhere in Jamaica if we're lucky, going to Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico near the Virgin Islands, and through the Lesser Antilles all the way down to Trinidad, Tobago. Maybe a passing shower or so. Nothing much is expected today. There isn't a major system or something significant to really, give us a decent downpour. So it is pretty hot and dry these days. ABC Islands, it is a similar story. And as I showed you guys, just offshore Panama, within that area, there's that blob. So a lot of heavy rain likely near the Colombian coast. Maybe rainfall amounts exceeding 8 inches, definitely flood triggering rainfall within that area. So the intertropical convergence zone, it's getting active. It's where the trade winds of the north and south meet, and when they meet, what happens is that there can be that kind of activity, a lot of atmospheric instability that helps to fuel shower and thunderstorm development. Within parts of northern South America, Guyana, Suriname, French Guiana, even for southern Venezuela and Colombia itself, there could definitely be some periods of heavy rain and thunderstorms through today. Panama, Costa Rica, maybe a few spots in Nicaragua as well, going up to Guatemala, and even Mexico in some spots may experience some downpours today. Belize, Bay Islands off Honduras, the Keys as well, much of the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico not expected to experience much in terms of rainfall activity today. Now, as it relates to the dust, let's take a look at that forecast. So as we're going to be heading into tomorrow, we're going to see most of the dust clearing up in the Caribbean. However, look at that next plume about to head in later this week, go into the weekend. So as we head into Friday and Saturday, the Lesser Antilles will notice that next dust coverage coming in. So another dust plume is on the way for the Caribbean. Now, let's talk more about that Pacific system expected. Let's look at what models have to show. Now, the GFS is certainly expecting development. It's been expecting development for a while now, even though it was on and off about the intensity of the system, but generally it has been showing that something could form. And this is for Sunday, May 19th. So by the start of the new week, GFS is showing that we may have a tropical storm, potentially a hurricane, in the eastern Pacific offshore Mexico. Offshore is the keyword. So once it remains over water and moves out to the west, it is unlikely that it is going to be a bother for anyone in terms of unleashing any significant impacts. Next, we've got the Icon model. Look at this here. Icon is showing something pretty interesting. It has the system loitering around and approaching the southern Mexican coast. That is pretty interesting because, I mean, even if this thing doesn't make landfall, if it is close enough, it could unleash a lot of heavy rainfall, induce that storm surge as well, and produce those strong winds along coastal areas. So it's definitely something we'll have to watch for. And I mean, we're still days out from when we may see development happen, so there can be some changes. But generally, sea surface temperatures are so warm just offshore Central America to support rapid intensification. So once other environmental conditions are favorable, no doubt that we're going to be seeing that low pressure area that forms actually develop and intensify. Now, the Euro model is not expecting development. It is certainly showing that increase in moisture as we head into later this week, going to Friday. But in terms of actually seeing something form, Euro is not expecting that right now. So we still have some days to go, and let's see how things progress. But I'll be keeping you guys posted on all that is happening. And again, the first name on the list for the Pacific hurricane season is Aleta. So we could see a lot of form later this week or early next week once environmental conditions allow for that to happen. And then as it relates to the Atlantic basin, not seeing any development in the short term, but the first name on the list for the Atlantic hurricane season is Alberto. So again, we've got a lot of dust out there, and that's kind of helping to suppress things as it relates to atmospheric instability, because all that dust, that dry air, it results in a more stable environment where we don't see much happening. But, you know, once things really kick off with the hurricane season beginning in about 2 weeks, then, you know, we'll definitely see some activity in the basin. And overall, models are showing somewhat of an increase in moisture in parts of the Caribbean for late May, which I'll talk more about in future videos. But that is pretty much what I wanted to share with you guys in this update this morning. And I really do hope you found it to be very informative. But if you have any questions, do feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll respond when I get the chance to do so. And remember to always be weatherwise.